As I have mentioned earlier, I don't want to build another model, so I looked around a little bit and I found this piece of scrap plywood here, and I drew up a sketch, this one, which fits onto this piece of plywood, because I just want to demonstrate how I transfer from the baking paper onto the plywood and how I cut it out. Okay, let's get started. Now the first thing is to make sure that the sketch, which represents only half of the physical piece, this might be a station of the boat for example, so that I have enough space on the other side to draw this one more time. Then the next step is to use an ordinary pin like this and to start to prick some holes. Of course, make sure that at all times you keep the baking paper flat, straightened out and fixed in position. I start with the positions of the vertical and the horizontal straight lines. And of course I have to make sure that I actually hit the position correctly. There. Now I can remove the baking paper and look for the markings that I have made and draw them out with a ruler. When I draw the horizontal lines now, I extend them to the other side as well, because I want to flip over the baking paper later to make the second half. Of course, you have to make sure that there's a right angle between these two lines. Otherwise, your frame, your station, whatever you're drawing, will become distorted. With all the straight lines in place, I can now put the baking paper back on. Make sure to align all the lines that I have already drawn on the plywood with the baking paper. And now comes the tedious part, taking the pin and painstakingly punch one hole after the other to get the curve. And there. Now one side is punched. Now I flip the whole thing over, place it again so it matches all the horizontal and vertical straight lines. Okay, I finished the second half of this plan, and if I remove the baking paper and move the camera a little closer, you can probably see all these tiny holes there. Okay, on to the bandsaw. I start by making a rough cut a little further out from the punched line, and then I will continue with some relief cuts, and then I will come in closer. Okay, this is what it looks now. So a little rough, and now I do the relief cuts, because where there are small radii, the bandsaw has a difficult time to get around it. Now these are the relief cuts, and now I start cut along the line. Make sure you cut not along the line but a little proud. Okay, the piece is roughly in shape, and now it's time for the belt sander to finish it off. I use an 80 grit paper to trim the edges. I apply as little pressure as possible, never hold the piece in one place for a long time, and check the progress frequently. And there's the result.